Alright, so before we move on to the next section, I want to take the time to discuss some quick tips and other text-based functions that are helpful to know how to use. And I provided some examples that you might run into often. And we will be working inside the Text Tips sheet tab, so make sure you have this sheet selected. So for the first example, I'm going to show you how you can keep leading zeros when you insert a number into Excel. Let's say that you want to create some invoice numbers, and every invoice number is formatted with 6 digits. So for your first invoice, you would want to put 000-001. If we click enter, Excel automatically deletes the leading zeros. So to keep those leading zeros, we have a few options. Let me create a few invoice numbers. So I'm going to put 2, then 3. Then I'm going to select these cells, then drag the fill handle down, and Excel's catching the pattern that I want to increase these numbers by 1. So now I have 1 through 10. And then in the next column, we can insert the text function. And we saw in the last video that by using the text function, we can convert a value into text, but in a specific number format. So if we type in equals text, open parentheses, the value that we want to convert is this cell right here, A2, comma. And for our number format, we want our invoice numbers to be 6 digits and keep the leading zeros if there are any. So for the number format, we can put open quotes and then type in 6 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then close quotes and then close parentheses. And if we click enter, now our formatted invoice number shows 5 zeros and then 1. And if we fill this formula down, now all of our invoice numbers are formatted correctly. Now creating this formatted column is great because we're not messing with the original data. But if for some reason you can't use the text function or don't want to, we can just apply a custom format to our invoice number column. For example, if we select these cells, come up to the Home tab, and then within the number group, we can select this drop-down, click on More Number Formats, go to Custom, and then in this box, we can type in the 6 zeros. And if we click OK, now our invoice number column is formatted correctly and put in those leading zeros. Now I want to show you another thing that you might come across that you can fix using text-based functions. For example, we have this name, score, and grade set up like you've seen before. And then over here, I have a VLOOKUP function that searches for the name and then returns the score. So up here in the name cell, if I type in Corey, we can see that his score was an 89. But now if I type in Trevor, it says that the name is not found. But over here in our name column, Trevor's right there. So why is the VLOOKUP function not returning 90? Well, if we take a look at this cell, it looks like the name is spelled correctly, but if we double click, we can see that there's a trailing space within this cell. And since that we typed in Trevor up here without the space, the VLOOKUP function is not finding a perfect match. So sometimes what I like to do, especially if I'm importing a text file from a different source, because sometimes text files come in weird from other applications, I like to make another column and trim all the leading or trailing spaces within these cells. So for example, if I insert a column between name and score, I'll title this trim. And to trim all the leading or trailing spaces, we can use the trim function. So if I type in equals, then trim, it says that it removes all the spaces from a text string except for single spaces between the words. So it's only removing the spaces at the beginning of the string or at the end of the string. So if I put open parentheses, select this text, close parentheses, then click enter, then fill this formula down the rest of our cells. Now if we go to Trevor in this column, there shouldn't be a trailing space. So if I come back to the VLOOKUP function and change my table array, so it's looking at the first column, click enter. Now my VLOOKUP function is finding an exact match of Trevor. So that's how you can use text-based functions to get your cells formatted correctly.